Hey guys, it's Hope with Fit to Fight Republic, and still working on getting some of the camera angles down. So if you can't see me right now, I think you'll be able to see me once we start to practice. So I hope everyone's doing well today. I thought we'd start with a breathing exercise. It's a breath retention class, or not, it's not gonna be the whole class, breath retention, but it's a breath retention that's supposed to help release anxiety and stress. Sometimes these breathing exercises can actually induce a little bit of anxiety because you're holding your breath. So if that happens, just don't do it. We're only gonna do it a few times. It looks crazy funny. So luckily you're in your own homes, and I'm the one demonstrating again. If I can do it live here for you guys, you can definitely do it at home by yourself with your kids, your partner. So again, breath retention. Let's go ahead, and you want to be standing for this, and I'll show you the first few times. Again, if my head is cut off during any of the video, don't worry about it. But you want to inhale, and then as you exhale, you're gonna exhale. You can make an audible sound. All of you guys know how to do that, you know, martial arts and all. And then as you're here, you're gonna start to inhale the breath, pulling your belly button into your spine, bringing your chin down to your chest, and then as you inhale, rolling back up to standing. So I'm gonna do it one time for you, just so you see what it looks like. So it's like this. We're not holding our breath. So if you feel uncomfortable, or if you start to feel dizzy, you can release the breath, or you can start to come up a little bit faster if you want to. So let's try it together. We're gonna inhale, clear your legs, exhale. Inhale again. This time exhale with force. Inhale, pulling your belly button into your spine, chin to your chest. And then coming all the way up to standing. One more time, and then we'll get started with the practice. So inhale, let it go. Inhale again. This time forcefully let it go. Pulling the breath in through your nose, tucking your chin. And then coming up to standing. And then just shake it out. Anytime your head is down or your feet are above your head, it helps bring your blood pressure down. And you're also, you know, forcing out any stale air that might be in your lungs. So let's get started with the practice. So we're gonna start standing today. I know a lot of you are probably thrilled about that. We'll get our blood moving a bit. We're gonna focus on our legs and hips, which should be good since the terrible but wonderful workout that Ryan Amber did for us yesterday with the squats and chest. So we're gonna kind of counteract that today. So just start at the top of your mat, and you wanna find all four corners of your feet. So I've said this before, but if you're not sure what that means, just lift all of your toes off the floor, and then see what's left, and then place them back down on the ground. That's all the four corners of your feet. So I'm gonna start here. You wanna go ahead and pull your left knee in towards your chest. And we'll just start here. So there is a bit of balance. If you need a wall or a chair, that's perfectly fine. I think you guys can do this. And then as you exhale, you're gonna bring that leg back behind you, and we're gonna find a low squat. Once you're in your low squat, just gently start to rock back and forth. If you need a little bit more, you can really lean into that hip. You wanna make sure that your knee and your ankle are staying stacked here. If you wanna move side to side a bit, then feel free as well to do that. Then we're gonna come into our runner's lunge. So working your heel out in front. And today we're really going to focus on keeping our spine straight. So what tends to happen is when we start to go into this runner's lunge, and I do it as well, our back starts to round, right? So maybe you don't go as far. Maybe you keep your hands on your hip. Maybe your hands go to your shin. You're going to work on rolling your shoulders back, keeping everything in alignment. And like we said, you're going to look forward, and you're going to, maybe your fingers come to the floor. Maybe they come to a block or a pillow. And just stay here for a moment. Really flexing your feet toward the ceiling. And just breathe here. Coming back into your low lunge. You can point your left toe to the ceiling. This might be enough. You're probably going to feel a pretty big stretch here. Some of you may want to reach back with your opposite hand, or it can be the same side hand if you really want to, if you have the room here. If not, then just keep that toe pointed to the ceiling. If you start to cramp, just release it and come back into it. It's a practice. And then release. You're going to tuck your toes, step your left foot up to meet your right, and find your first forward fold. So maybe you grab your elbows, maybe you rock your, or you shake your head yes and no. Thank you guys for all showing up, by the way. I appreciate it. And you'll appreciate it after the practice. Maybe you find a little bit of movement here as you're in your forward fold. You can keep a nice bend in your knees if you'd like to. Releasing your hands, go ahead and roll back up to a standing position. And then we're going to work on that right side. So this time start to put your weight into your left leg, bringing your knee in towards your chest, pausing here for a moment, feeling your core engaged. And then slowly and with control, you're going to step your right foot back, coming into that low lunge on this side. So once again, once you're here, you can stay upright. You can take your hands to your knees for more stability. Just finding some gentle movement. Remembering to breathe. And honestly, it doesn't really matter how you're breathing. In through your nose, out through your nose. If you want to breathe out through your mouth, that's fine. It's just breathing with intention. So this time, and straighten that left leg. Toes go toward the ceiling. And again, we're going to work on keeping our back straight. So you're pulling your shoulders away from your spine. Maybe you don't go as far as we're keeping our spine straight, and that's okay. Maybe your fingertips come, to the floor. You should feel a nice stretch up the back of your thigh, or a stretch. Maybe nice is a bit of an overreach. A deep stretch. Breathing here in the stretch. Coming back into your low lunge, or coming into your low lunge on this side. And then you're going to roll off of your right knee, pointing your right toes to the ceiling this time. Again, if you notice that you start to cramp or there's too much sensation, just release it and then come back into it. If you want a little bit more reaching back with your left hand, you can also reach back with your right hand. Again, it's all about what you choose to do in your practice today. Releasing your foot, you're going to tuck your toes on your right side. Step that right foot up to meet your left. This time interlacing your fingers behind your back. If your shoulders are too tight for that, you can grab a towel and then again coming into a forward fold. Allowing your head and neck to stay loose. You can shake your head for yes and no from time to time. Continuing to breathe. Notice if you're holding any tension in your shoulders, in your face, and see if you can't just let that go. And if you can't, that's okay. Just bring me some attention to the fact that, hey, I like to hold tension in my jaw. How can I counteract that? You can take the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. go ahead and release your bind wherever you're at, and we're gonna slowly roll up to standing. So we're just gonna add on to this. So again, this time we're working on the left side, so putting your weight into your right side, bringing your left knee into your chest. This time we're gonna extend our arms forward like we're pushing energy away. Extend that left leg as well. This time try to keep your legs straight as you're bringing it back behind you, stepping once again into that low lunge. This time we'll bring our fingertips up to the ceiling. And breathe. You should feel a stretch up the top of your thigh or even in your hip here. And then we're going to exhale. We're going to open up to the right side. This is going to feel a little weird, but doesn't everything these days? Coming back to center, and then opening up for a twist on the left side. And see what's going on with your, with your legs. If you notice that you start to cave in, see if you can't keep that straightened out as we're in this twist. Coming back to the center. This time we're going to take our hands on the inside of our right foot. You can walk that foot back a little bit. Depending on what you're trying to get out of this workout today or out of this practice, you can tuck your toes and you can stay up with your knee lifted. If you just want to work on like your stability and really feeling it in your leg, or you can drop to your back knee and you can start to work your way down to your forearms or maybe a pillow, and that's going to get you into your more of the hip on the right leg. You can just stay right here with your hands grounded on the inside. Again, maybe finding a little bit of movement. Then take your right foot and you're gonna just allow yourself to come onto the bladed side part of your foot. And I'll turn this way just in case that view isn't very good. So you're just allowing your hip to open up. Maybe again, you rock from side to side. And then bringing that foot back into alignment, taking your right hand on the outside of that right foot, tucking your left toes, stepping your left foot up to meet your right. And this time we'll just go ahead and roll up to a standing position, rolling your shoulders back, and then we'll do the other side. So starting to put your weight into your left leg, bringing that right leg into your chest. We're going to extend our arms, pushing the energy away from us. Kick your right foot out. Keeping your foot straight this time, go ahead and pull through the center. Bring it back behind you, coming into that low lunge. Bringing your fingertips up to the ceiling, and then just pause here. And checking in. If it takes you longer to get through these transitions, it doesn't matter. Great. We're not worried so much about what the aesthetics look today. It's the movement, it's the mobility, it's getting into your body, and seeing what's tight, what feels great. This time we're going to open up to the left side this time. Coming back to the center, opening up to the right side. Check in, see what your legs are doing. See, my leg was going all wonky over this side. Pull it back in. Coming back through the center here. And then this time we're going to bring your hands on the inside of that left foot. So again, find which one works for you. So do you want to stay here? Do you want to tuck your right toes so your knee is lifted and you're working through your right leg as well as your left? Do you want to just stay on your knee? You can come down to your forearms. Whatever works for you today. And it's going to be different from day to day. Some days our bodies are more stiff, and there shouldn't be a judgment on that, especially if this is something that's really pretty new to you. Yeah, I mean, there's days I wake up and I'm like, this isn't the body that I went to bed with. That's what you got, so that's what we got to work with. So if you're not already back to your hands, go ahead and come back up to your hands. You want to drop that back knee and then just come onto the bladed side of your left foot this time. Getting into our hip socket. Maybe you add in some gentle movement here. Nice, coming back into center. Left hand goes on the outside of that foot. Tuck your right toes. Step up to your left. And again, slowly roll up to standing. And just gently roll through your ankles a few times. We're gonna work on our hips a little bit. We did something similar, I think it was maybe last Thursday. So we're gonna start, bring your toes towards each other. So almost like you're not knee, or I don't even know that's the right term. And then just allow yourself a little bit of a bend in your knee. Maybe take some small movements here. And breathe. See if you can't keep your heels where they're at. Turn your toes forward. And then we're going to start to come into a squat. And I know at first you're like, you said this was going to be some relief from yesterday. I promise, I did the workout too. It's coming. And see if you can't bring your fingertips to the floor. If you can't, that's okay. If you're here or at a little bit of a higher squat, just bring your hands to your hips. And then again, just work on moving side to side. Then you're going to bring your hands out in front and pause here. Bring them out like an airplane or the letter T. And then come all the way up to standing. And then just roll through your legs. You can shake your legs out a little bit if you want to. And then we have one more standing rotation, and then we'll go back down, or we'll go to the ground and work on releasing through your legs and hips a little bit more. So again, start to put your weight into your right leg. Bring your left knee in towards your chest. Extend, pushing that energy away. It doesn't matter if your leg's straight or not. Allow that leg to come back, all the way back. This time we're gonna stay up on our hill. We call this crescent lunge, or you can just call it lunge, that works too. You can bring your hands to your hips and breathe here. Really see if you can't start to work that hill towards the floor. You should feel a stretch in the front and back side of your leg. Walk that back foot in just a tiny bit, and you're going to straighten your front leg. So it's almost like it is a standing runner's lunge. So we did the runner's lunge on both sides before. This time we're straightening this leg. We'll start with our hands on our hips, and you're just going to hinge forward. You may need to walk that back foot up just a little bit more. Perfectly fine. You might notice that you have a little bit of a bend in your front leg. That's fine too. Again, we're not really worried about as much what it looks like, but how it feels in your body. And if you're able to feel, your limbs stretching out. So feel free to stay here. You can start to work your fingers closer to the floor. Maybe they come all the way to the floor. Maybe you just work with your hands on your hips. Maybe try to lift your heel or your toes, bring your toes toward the ceiling. Maybe that's next class. You can also do that from here. It can be a really intense stretch, so just be mindful of that. If you have your toes lifted, go ahead and drop your toes back down to the floor. Bring your hands back to your hips, coming back up. Step that left foot up to meet your right. And we'll just do it on the other side. Start to put your weight into your left foot, bringing your knee into your chest. Extending your arms and your foot forward. Again, trying to keep that leg straight. Bringing it behind you. Staying up on the toe this time. Arms can go to the ceiling or to your hips. And breathe here. Maybe start to straighten that leg a little bit. Really feeling a stretch in the inside of your thigh, the outside of your thigh, your bum. And breathe. Even doing simple, like what seems to be simple stretches like this, you may notice that your body's like, shaking. Perfectly normal. Walk that foot in just a tiny bit. You're going to straighten your front leg. And remember, every side's different, so do what your body can do on this side. Hands to your hips if they're not already there, and we're going to come to this halfway point. You can stay here, or if you want to reach for your shin, maybe reach for the floor. See about pulling your left toes off the floor, off the mat, toward the ceiling. It intensifies the stretch. Just an option. Go ahead and release your toes back down to the floor. Bringing your hands back to your hips. That right foot comes up to meet your left. Roll through your ankles a bit. We'll do one more forward fold before we move to the ground. Inhale, bringing your fingertips up to the ceiling. Exhale, you're going to forward fold. Even if you have to keep a really deep bend where your chest is on top of your thighs, or so that can happen, just take your peace sign fingers, take your big toes, and release into a forward fold here. You may surprise yourself and be able to straighten your legs more than what you think, and that's okay if you don't want to. You can stay in this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with staying in a bent knee forward fold. Again, release your neck. Release the bind, and then go ahead and come down to your tabletop position. Take your knees wide. Toes can come to touch. Sometimes it feels better for people to keep their knees together, which is called embryo pose. You can certainly do that. And then just come into a child's pose. So a couple different things you can do with your hands. You can keep your fingertips stretched forward. You can bring your hands over your head like you're saying a prayer, or you can bring your hands to the backs of your shoulders, which is going to intensify your tricep stretch. Just find a position that that you can hold, that feels good. And if you want to change it up, if you want to try something else, that's perfectly fine. Coming back into your tabletop position, spreading your fingers wide. Again, keeping your cervical spine in alignment here. And then just move through some cat and cow. So you're gonna start by tilting your pelvis toward the ceiling, your chin toward the ceiling. Exhaling, pulling your belly button into your spine, bringing your chin to your chest. Really rounding everything. And then exhaling and moving into the next position. It's a great opportunity to kind of explore what your body needs. You can add in some little C curves or some little circular motion here. One great thing about this is that, at least on these Facebook Lives, you can kind of try some new things that maybe you wouldn't ordinarily do. And no one knows, no one knows what it looks like. And I know it's hard, especially as adults, we become more apprehensive about trying new things. And I say just go for it. So come back to a neutral spine. We're gonna bring our hands into, I think you should be able to, if you can't, it's a butterfly shape. So you're bringing your wrists together, maybe from here. Yeah, here. And just gently start to move from side to side. You can start to move your fingertips towards your knees, if that's okay with you. It's not on my one wrist, so I'm not gonna do it on that side. And you know, that's what you should do too. If something doesn't feel right, now I'm not talking about like it's just uncomfortable, but if something like hurts, then don't do it. Release your fingers back to their original position. You're going to take your right hand, flip your palm to the ceiling. Again, you can take some really small movements here, rolling against your wrist. This might be enough just right here, and that's okay. Just stay where you need to stay. Notice if you're starting to hold tension in your shoulders. If you are, just be mindful of that. See if you can let that go. Are you clenching your jaw? Are you furrowing your brow? Releasing your right hand, and then we'll move over to the left hand. So flipping your palm toward the ceiling. Again, maybe staying right here is enough, or you can take some gentle movement from side to side. Releasing that. So now walk your hands out. I think we might have done a variation of this on Tuesday. Walk your hands out a little bit further. You're going to move your knees back. You can just come down to your forearms and stay right here. Or if you have the room, just continue to move your knees back or your arms forward. See if you can't bring your chin to the floor. Your bum stays in the air. You're stretching through your back. And it's hard to talk with your chin on the floor, so I'm just going to stay with my forearms here. If you have really tight shoulders, this is probably where you're going to feel most comfortable. Coming back up through the tabletop. And then we're going to tuck our toes. And if you haven't done this with me before or haven't done it at all, it kind of sucks the first, it sucks a little bit as you're getting used to it. But it's great. We don't work and stretch our feet enough, especially if you guys are doing other types of martial arts or fitness in general. It's pretty important. Like plantar fasciitis, and I'm not saying that these are cures by any means, but it definitely helps alleviate as you stretch through your feet. So tucking your toes. Sometimes I'll even like spread my toes a little wider. And even if you don't stay on your toes as long as maybe I am today, that's okay. See if you can't come back into it, or at least take a few extra deep breaths and stay in it a little longer than you want to, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me. But the more frequent you do it, the less uncomfortable it is. Come back into your tabletop and then just start to tap the tops of your feet out. Maybe you move them around a little bit. Maybe you flatten them out and you just sit back on your heels here. You can even bring your hands behind you, pull your knees off the floor to give your a reverse stretch of that. And then coming back. We're going to do it one more time. So gently tuck your toes. Walk your hands back to that kneeling position. You can separate your toes if you need to. Drawing your shoulders down your back. And this is a really good time to start focusing on your breath, or even counting or cursing. That's okay too. I do it sometimes in my head. You're at home, you could probably do it out loud if you really wanted to. And breathe. Again, staying in that uncomfortable spot for just a few extra moments allows you to use your breath to kick in your parasympathetic nervous system, which is what calms you down. If you can do it here, you can do it out there. Go ahead and come back into your tabletop position, tapping the tops of your feet out, flattening got your feet. Maybe you sit back. You can stay here if you need a little bit more, lifting your knees off the ground, really stretching through your feet. Yeah. And coming back into this position one last time. Moving through a few cat and cows just to kind of clear your palate. You can look over one shoulder and then the other. And then we're just going to come into a seated position. So taking your feet, the soles of your feet together, and we're going to start by sitting up tall. If you have, again, super tight hips, grab a pillow, stick pillows underneath your knees. Maybe you need to change the rotation of your hips a little bit. You can sit on a pillow, and it just allows you to naturally change the rotation of your hips. But for now, we're gonna keep the soles of our feet together. And then you're gonna push your feet together. So push your feet in towards, so you can feel some tension. You can keep your hands on your ankles, taking your elbows and just gently applying some pressure. If you have super open hips and you wanna give it a little bit more, do it. Still keeping that tension in between your feet. So you're gonna feel it in your inner thighs by pressing your feet together, and on the outside by adding a little bit of tension here. And then release, and then just start to gently butterfly your feet, or your knees, most things. And we're gonna do that one more time. So start by pressing the soles of your feet together. You can sit up tall, and then start taking your elbows. And it may not take much at all. Again, listen to your body. And then release, and butterfly your knees. Then we're going to extend our legs out in front, just shake them out a bit. We're going to start to take your toes out to the side and then back in. Maybe you want to round through your ankles or rotate your ankles a few times. Keeping your left leg extended, we're going to take our right foot. Couple of options here. Again, if you've been doing mobility or you have the room, take your right ankle, place it on top or even over a little off of your left leg, and then you can take your right arm, adding some tension. If that's just too much, just bring your leg to the inside here, and you can place it on the floor. It helps if you keep your left toes active. So keep them pointed to the floor. I mean, I guess you could point them that way too, but point them toward the ceiling. It's gonna keep your leg engaged here. It also helps keep your core engaged. So you have the option of staying right here, or if you want to reach for your shin, maybe reach for your foot. It's going to increase that stretch. And gently release, coming back up to a seated position. Extend that right leg out. Again, we'll just point and flex, rotate through, and then we'll move on to the other side. Right foot stays flexed this time. You can bring the left foot in on the floor to the inside of that thigh, or bring your left foot on top of your leg or either on the outside of that right thigh. And then just start to add some tension onto this left side. You may not need much at all. You may. It just depends on, how open your body is. And everyone's different. And like I said, from day to day, it can be different. Don't Don't judge yourself. Now if you want to, you can stay right here. You can start to reach for that right foot. And see on this side, I have a little bit of a hamstring issue, so I'm not gonna go as far. Because I'm listening to my body, I'm trying to. I push through things sometimes and I shouldn't. Coming back up to center, you're gonna bring both soles of the feet to the floor, and you can just start to gently windshield wiper your legs from side to side. I really like to add in a twist here, but you don't have to. You can just continue with the windshield wiper. And then go ahead and come down to your backs. We're gonna bring our knees into our chest. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. You can cross your ankles here, grab the outside soles of your feet. Really pressing into the floor or the mat. And we're gonna do some of the progressive muscle release techniques to help release some tension. So as you're here, even if you just have your legs or your ankles, you're gonna curl into a little ball, creating as much tension in your body, your shoulders, your face, like anything that you feel like you can activate right now that you can bring some tension into. Take a really big inhale and then exhale. Let everything come back down to the floor. We're gonna do that again. So bringing your knees back into your chest. Try to remember which ankle you crossed in front. The one that feels most awkward is probably the one that you didn't do. I don't remember, so I'm just gonna go with this. Again, give yourself a little bit of a massage. And then start to pull everything in, pull your shoulders off the floor, tense any muscle groups, anything that you possibly can. Take a deep inhale. And then release. This time take your feet wide, allow your knees to touch. And then just place one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. And if you have another, if something else feels better with your legs, if you want to take the soles of your feet together, if you want to extend them out straight, or just put the soles of your feet on the floor. And just notice the natural rise and fall of your breath as we're here. And I'm just going to take you through really super short. I don't even know if you call it a meditation, but hopefully it will bring you some joy today. So just close your eyes as we're here. And if you don't want to do it today, that's okay. You can listen. Just close your eyes and think of a moment in your life that brought you great joy. It can be a pet, it can be a person, a place, a thing, anything that you take your attention to that particular moment and it automatically like makes you smile or makes you laugh. Something silly you did, something funny that one of your friends, your best friend did, whatever the scenario is. Like take that in as you're breathing and just kind of let it fill up your whole body. Like really concentrate. Remember that moment that you were in that moment. And just breathe with that. Maybe it's your dogs. Like my dogs are ridiculous. See if you can't bring yourself back to that moment for a few more rounds of breath. And let that memory just kind of fill you up from your diaphragm throughout your whole body. Just kind of zip you up into a little bubble of joy. And then just slowly start to come back, notice your breath again. Wherever you're at, if you're already sitting up, that's great. If you want to make your way to a seat, I just want to thank you guys for showing up, whether you're watching it with me live or you're watching it, later. It's really important to me to really all of us, not just at FTF, but community-wise, that we, keep this interaction going for our health, our mental and physical health. And so, again, thank you all for showing up. I'm happy to, answer any questions. You can always DM me if you feel like it, or reach out to, Fit to Fight Republic. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon. Thanks.